exponentially.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call?
Mayor Hassler.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Donovan.
Here.
Alderman Jokers.
Here.
Alderman Eidman.
Here.
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Prince. Alderwoman Armbruster.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Need to move for approval of the agenda.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Takes us down to our city administrator's report.
And we've got an updated report of receipts, some of the extra items that have added on there. Park Service is going to be revising the interior of the Welcome Center to separate themselves from our crew. So our group can talk about what's in St. Genevieve, and their group can talk about interpreting what the St. Genevieve historical aspect that they're responsible for. So you'll see some changes inside and some new counter work done. One of the pictures that was on display at the Welcome Center is now on display temporarily at the Christ Museum at Southeast Missouri State, and that's for Louise Marler. So if you get a chance to go down there and see her complete display, you'll see one of St. Genevieve that we've had, and will be brought back. In Bowman Construction, they've got a lot of jobs going on. So getting started on St. Genevieve is going to be later than anticipated. We're hoping next week. It may be the week after that they get started. Should take them about 9 days to get it all done. So once we get them started, we're fine. But they're going to do a number of jobs in the area, and they're trying to finish up the number of jobs they've got now in St. Francis County. So, any questions?
Happy, do you have an update on Fish and Wildlife office space?
I was going to and forgot to text Jared Nance today and see. My understanding is that Park Service is going to offer space for him.
Great.
But I haven't got that confirmed from the Fish and Wildlife
Okay.
yet. But
So
they haven't asked for our space yet.
So we're putting the park house, looking at all that on hold?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Yes,
Okay,
sir.
yeah, just, I know we've talked at length, but just an update on how we feel about Parkwood in that repaving project, the 145,000.
So that's in this coming year. That's not in this.
No, sir, I can't let that go.
So that's in this year's, this coming year. That's not in this group.
Right,
And that'll be work session.
Right, that's a work
for the
session
ARPA
item.
funds.
Okay,
Yep.
just want to make sure we're tracking. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I like it.
Anything else?
No other questions? Eric Bennett?
Good evening.
Hey, Chief.
On to report, the remodel's going well. They've started the drywall. I think based on the progress that they've done so far, I would imagine they'll have it done tomorrow as far as the hanging. I don't know what the schedule is for finishing that, but man, those guys, it's amazing watching people that know what they're doing compared to me hanging drywall, so it's quite impressive. So again, we just appreciate the support on that. Everything's going well. We're anxious to get back into our home, and Pete's doing pretty well. I think once we get back in here, he's going to come back and start some light duty, help us get things set up, and once we have a good air conditioned space for him, then he'll finish out his light duty stuff until he gets released to come back full duty. So still talking to him quite a bit, and he's doing pretty well. So does anybody have any questions?
Eric, what about as far as desks and chairs? I mean, are we pretty well covered?
Yes and no. I mean, some stuff didn't survive the move.
File cabinets, that type of thing.
File cabinets and stuff all got moved downstairs. We've got a lot of our stuff in the building outside. I mentioned on our report the building outside is got some pretty substantial moisture issues that we're talking to Happy and the contractor here about, as far as just getting some ideas to take care of that. But a lot of the stuff that we have out there is pretty moldy now, and so we'll have a lot of cleanup on a lot of that stuff. But we're gonna check. I know some of the desks that we got before we acquired from the federal building, when they have new judges and stuff come in, they surplus all of their stuff and it's free. So we got some desks from them last time, so we're gonna go up and see if we can get some updated desks, a little more modern looking, some nicer stuff, so.
With all the new things,
Yeah.
it would be nice to have.
Well, we're gonna look, once we get completed on, as far as like a squad room setup, something a little more functional and nicer looking, a little more pleasing aesthetic, I guess, on that's functional for those guys. Like to look, I know this came up with this remodel, but like to look at sometime in the future, maybe putting in a locker room downstairs for the guys and quarters to change and have different uniforms and stuff should they get into something. So all of that stuff will be down the road, but yeah.
Chief, do we have any information or anything new on the going-ons with the bathrooms?
Yes, we have 2 suspects on that now, and believe they also committed a burglary there in the neighborhood. It's all apparently some type of TikTok challenge where
Right.
I know the school has experienced quite a bit of damage
Yes, sir.
also. But yeah, our officers were able, well, with the Health Sheriff's Department, developed a couple of suspects, and one of them's already made some admissions, so I think we've got a pretty good
Thanks, Chief.
handle on that.
Good job. Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Dean?
Evening.
We made some big steps on our GIS system for the month of August. We finally got a data dictionary loaded into the equipment that we can actually use. Staff has begun collecting data around town, mainly starting with meter pits. There's about 2,200 meter pits in the system. So we'll go around, collect data, locations, installation dates if we have them, size of line. We'll get all that loaded up into the program, and it'll be ready for viewing as well. Water plant, we have a large CO2 tank. It's 28,000 pounds, 28,000 pound tank outside of our water treatment plant. The compressor, we've ended up putting a new fan on it. We had to charge it. We've done a few things to it. Routine maintenance on that thing's been increasing over the past few years. So that's definitely something we're going to keep an eye on. It went to the point this past week where it leaked off roughly 7,000 pounds. It's gas, it just goes up and dissipates. But so we went ahead and got another load, topped the tank off before the end of the year, and it's running and functioning now. But that it'd definitely be something we'll be keeping an eye on. I know I've mentioned in the past the meter pits, or the water line project was complete. We got Wiener Street water line installed. I did want to include that we had 16 meter pits that were in basements that we moved out in the yards along that street, and any time we came across a lead line, it was replaced as well. Some of the yards that we had to go up into were due to the lead line and not anything to do with the meter pit.
So is that all your in basement meters, or you still got some?
For that section of street. Now we're going to address the next section for the next water line project, and we'll pothole in advance with a vac truck or vac trailer, identify the line types at each location so we can better prepare for that, and we'll get a count on the meter pits to move outside as well. So.
Thank you.
Also during that project, we found 2 manholes that were buried under the street, whenever the street was put in, so they're now accessible.
Steve, back to this tank issue and stuff, I mean, what's the long term?
New refrigeration unit, that'll be the end game.
Pretty expensive.
Probably $12,000–15,000.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Jeff?
Good evening. The first line there should read, in-person numbers at the Welcome Center are down from the previous months. We have slight lack in numbers for September. I included some visitor tracking from previous years to show the decline. Also, the exhibits on loan from FCA were also removed and minor repairs done to the walls. Then Happy also has already mentioned the new layout potential. And of course, the recent events that happened in the last month, Moon Over Market, History Conference, and the Civil War interpretive events, along with some upcoming events for September, the St. Genevieve encampment, and also the Night of the Werewolf coming up in October, and the expected numbers for those. Below that, you'll see the marketing efforts that we've been doing. Total Facebook analytics at 3520 for likes. The month previous, from August 23rd to September 19th, were slightly off, but a comparison of what we've been doing for the week of September 13th through the 19th.
Is that attributed to any sort of a change in strategy?
Just better interaction with various comments, likes, invites, consistent posting,
Great.
more than anything else.
Jeff,
Yes.
what do you think about that metric? What's that mean to you, the likes?
That is really, I think, just a more of a focus and attention placed on the social media aspect.
Right.
It would appear that inconsistency has really been the key. And so with consistency, the really with Facebook, that certainly changes the more consistent that you are with the post and
Like
especially
you-
engagement.
I guess, do you have a vision for what that is going to mean to you and why that's important for us to track? I mean, I get it that we want that, but in other places you've been, like, what's the practical application? I know we'll never drill down to a dollar spent on, thumbs up. There's no math for that, but I'm just curious, your gut feel, what does that mean to you?
Well, certainly with a consistent top-of-mind awareness campaign, which is what social media strategies are, certainly introduction to new or changes within whatever events are going on. But the consistency with which you relate to the audience is the key to keep that higher rankings in the feeds, as well as just general information on a consistent basis.
I mean, you're not necessarily going to be concerned if that number trends down.
It certainly will trend down somewhat at different times, just because of right now, there's been a lack of attention to it. So therefore, some of those percentages of increase are astronomical with 584% increase on the post engagements, 3,700% increase on the new page likes. And those obviously, as the numbers increase, raw numbers, then the percentages will adjust accordingly.
Well, glad to see you here.
Thank you.
So I'd like to say I'm glad to see you here as well. I'm also wondering, are you going to still have your meeting this coming month with the committee for the tourist tax and everything else? Because I know there's some board members that are really looking forward to meeting you.
I'm looking forward to that myself as well.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So we're going to have that this October?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bring us to our COVID discussion.
So the numbers reflected on the scale that I look at, so you're looking at what the average total is per day. Last time it was at 10, it was last Wednesday. It's been below that prior to and then after that. So that was the metric we were talking about, whether we're going to require masks in our buildings or not, which we have been doing because the last time we looked at them, they were up 11 and staying in the upper numbers. It's kind of the same thing. We're still looking at them being, 7 or 8, but we are under 10. And we can look at doing away with the mask requirement inside City Hall and in the Welcome Center if we want to. It's because it trended up, trended down, we're trending down again. I don't know if we want to, continue it for another 2 weeks, see what the effects are.
I would vote for continuing it. I think if we stop and then it goes up in 2 weeks and we reinstate it, then it's going to start getting confusing. I think it would just be better to be consistent
See a
for a
little bit
little
more
while
consistency
longer.
in that trend.
And I think
first.
we would show, consistency with the school district and everything else like that as well at this time, to make sure that we try and make sure that things keep trending down. I think we should probably all support and work together.
Wait
as a
till
community.
next meeting to reevaluate.
No issue with that.
We'll talk to the health department and see if we can get Jennifer here at the next meeting.
Great.
If there's anything that's going on, we haven't heard of anything, any changes, any issues, so I didn't feel it was necessary to get an update.
Great.
Are there any committee reports?
Yeah, so Gary kind of touched on it a little earlier. Restrooms in 3 of our parks were vandalized, most likely in reference to the TikTok challenge that's been sweeping the nation, unfortunately. So, talking to Happy, the restrooms will probably end up locking those up for a while, but opening them for events like Valley Springs to be open for the Valley home football games. The soccer field restrooms will be open for the Valley CAC League on Saturdays, things like that. They were open today for the cross-country meet. So hopefully that'll deter, until this kind of passes with the challenge and stuff. But
Just to dovetail into that, it used to be, I believe, Buck, back me up on this, at dusk, we used to lock them. Is that any more the policy, or is that something we should go back to? Because I know that there was a time when we would have everything locked at dusk.
That's true.
yeah, I'm not familiar with that policy, so, I guess that'd be something that we would work out with
Happy,
the
would that be
city.
something we should look into, maybe going
Right.
back to that? Because why not remove the
I'm-
temptation?
But I'm honestly not that concerned about it because, even removing them at dusk, if you don't have people up there in the evening, that's the opportunity, is when people aren't there. But I know disc golf will go up there and play a glow round where they throw glow-in-the-dark discs. So that's an evening game. So it's like if we're locking that up before some, because our park closes around 11 o'clock.
Then let me be more
people to play.
specific. The Main Street one can be and should be locked at dusk, I think.
Yeah, that's something.
Because there's no activities going on there. So
But people walk around town.
I
and
still
if there-
think-
And if there's nothing open, they need facilities.
True, but I think after dusk. It used to be that way, right, Bob?
The last
So-
recollection, yeah.
I'm just saying it's a good way to remove the
But then who
potential.
would do that? Who's on the clock at that
Well, we
time?
used to have it done.
Yeah, I guess it's something we can visit.
Wasn't, didn't Eric, where's Eric in here? Didn't the police used to lock them up?
No.
Was it the city? Who was it, Bob?
That's been a long time ago.
Jan took care of, Jan
Was
took
it?
care, yeah.
Down there by the.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jan took care of Main Street Park. and
it's
don't-
something that maybe we can workshop in the future if we find a solution, but I'm not necessarily concerned about that because, kids are gonna do whatever stupid challenges kids are gonna do, and that's the unfortunate, and hopefully
Okay.
we can deter that, but I don't know that locking them up and locking honest park goers out is
The right thing to do?
is
Okay.
the right move.
Do we have a
right now.
cost on the repairs yet?
So kind of mentioned the cross-country meet, they had that today and everything went well with that. It was a middle school race. Talked to the organizers and they complimented the park. So kudos to the public works crew for that. We got a movie in the park this Saturday, Wizard of Oz. We'll set up at 6 o'clock. Movie will start around dusk. As soon as it gets dark enough for the screen. And we have a meeting on Monday, the 27th. That'll be at the firehouse at 7 o'clock. We're down 2 members, but I believe we're about to instate one. So then we'll be down 1 member. So if anybody knows, Anybody? Send them our way or send them to the mayor.
There you go.
So that's all I got.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Okay, very good. Takes us to public comments. So we have Steve and Terry from Shoe Plumbing and Heating here to address the board about a problem they have over there.
Good evening, guys.
Evening.
So, I guess y'all probably pretty aware of the problem we have over here. Most people who have lived around here for any amount of time have seen what happens over at our place at Shoe and Sons there when we get heavy rain. There's I don't know. There's a drainage ditch that goes between us and Bank of Bloomsdale, and it goes from there underneath the highway and clear over along behind them apartments on Porter Street, between that and the Subway building, and then clear over to the sinkhole over by the Valley football field. So the biggest issue with our area, I mean, that whole drainage system is a problem, everybody's aware of, but right there where we're at, what happens is the pipe going underneath the highway right in front of our shop is not big enough to take all that water. That water drains that whole subdivision behind Shoe and Sons, the hospital. I mean, a lot of water comes down through there. So a couple weeks ago, whenever we had that 4 inches of rain in an hour, whatever it was, we had 1.5 feet of water clear through our building, front to back, and wrapped all the way around our building, and it was a disaster. Still dealing with the cleanup. We've had water in there several times over the years, but it just seems to be, it's getting worse. I don't know what's, I blame it on, like development. It seems like every time somebody builds around us, it seems to get worse just because there's not the proper retention in the area there. And if you drive by our shop and look at it, we're a good 3 foot lower than anybody around us. So we're just sitting in a hole,
Back when the building was built in, the early 60s, there was nothing there. It was all farmland. The hospital was a quarter of its size probably. None of those buildings, clinics, none of that was there. The apartments were there, and if you take all that farmland or just open land, water seeps in the ground, so there was never an issue. As the town grew and people started building and stuff, that's a lot of rainwater that has to be diverted, and to say it nicely, we're kind of the butt of it. And we have a video that hopefully Happy can put it on the screen. We sent to him to kind of put you guys in our shoes, so to speak. I mean, it's a holy moly situation. We're here to try and get you guys to feel what we feel. And this last episode cost us about $50,000. And every time it rains, we can't afford that. We're a small business in this town, trying to, a majority of our business is in this town. It seems like it's getting worse, over the years.
Yeah. I mean, this is as bad as it's ever been.
I can't blow it up.
Yeah.
Pretty effective right there.
It was extremely, devastating for us. We're still trying to figure out exactly what all we lost, and tools, equipment, computers, furniture,
And another thing about it is there's not an insurance that we can buy that helps us out with that. We tried the flood insurance, and I don't know if any of you know this, but flood insurance, to be considered a flood, it has to be two or more adjoining properties have to have damage before they'll pay anything.
Our situation
it's a joke.
Never happen.
It'll never happen because we're in a hole there, and we can have 4 foot of water in our building and nobody else around us has anything. So all that money, the insurance adjuster came, he found, $30,000 worth of damage to our building. And I don't even know how many tools, and we had people's furnaces and air conditioners sitting back there that were sold that got flooded. I mean, all that has to come out of our pocket, And it just doesn't seem fair that we should have to do that every time it rains hard, you know? So we're just asking for you guys to put yourself in our shoes and let's try to work together and come up with a solution for it.
There has to be, you know, something, there has to be a solution somehow. Hopefully we can find it.
Steve, I can kind of sympathize with you guys. I've been unfortunate in that same situation, and what makes it absolutely worse, it's not like the river coming up. You
Right.
have time to do anything.
Right.
It's that instant, you know, thing, and like I said, I've had the same thing happen to me and stuff, but I guess I'm happy with MoDOT involved, and, you know, I mean, I've had my own deal going on. I didn't get to go out there, but, I mean, is enough water getting under both of the roadways, or is it backing up because of too small a pipe under the roadways?
The report that was done back in 2005 said that the pipe was too small that went under 32. That it needed to be increased, like, I think 2 pipes of 6 by 10. Problem is then are you just pushing that down to cause a problem to the next group of residents or business owners that are down further? But that was the choke point, because the city has completed everything else that they recommended in that report. All of the inlets, all of the piping, there's detention basins, but that one spot is still, has not been changed.
So what leverage do we have to make MoDOT do something, or ask them to do something, or?
We've been requesting. Before I got here, there was requests made. There's still discussions, but nothing. I believe they're looking at trying to get somebody, get a hydrologist to look at it and see what those numbers are and see what they think that pipe should be changed to, because they want to, if they're going to do it, they're going to replace it before they repave that highway. And that's on the schedule, either next year or the year after.
Problem you have is what we're doing is, everybody knows it, we could fix their problem, but we're going to send it down the line. You know, you go across the street, there's a house that sits right on the little creek right there. Well, when that flooded, that water was all backed up there. The water was in their back. It was on the corner of their backyard. And then it goes on down the line and it goes through, I don't know how big the pipe is. It goes underneath 61, all the way underneath McDonald's, all the way out to the ditch over at Mike's house. But everything was full, you know, and if it can get to there, the problem we have is if it can't get down in the sinkhole fast enough, well, guess what? It's going to back up. And it's just a problem, a big problem.
So this was my appeal a meeting ago, 2 meetings ago, saying, you know, we're making reference to this potential shell game where we move this problem around. You know, these gentlemen can't be stuck with it anymore. They're holding the bag, and we need to find some middle ground where we can make that better. But my appeal is that we look somewhere in a future budget for money to have a holistic solution. I think as a board, we are remiss if we don't look for a holistic solution in the whole city. Infrastructure, it's a part of infrastructure that's failing. Maybe not through fault of our own, but weather conditions are changing and getting more severe. So I feel like we need to look for the money to hire a consultant to look at the whole plan, if we can even get that done. I don't know.
And in that rain, I've got not video, but pictures on my phone. On the other side of that roadway, on the valley side of it, that water was all the way up to within the guy that I talked to him. He was wondering if it'd go in his house before it went over the road to the other sinkhole in behind him. Mike had water. I don't know how close it didn't come close to his house. There was more that could come in there into the sinkhole, but problem is I don't know if it's gonna. It'll be able, if it gets with hydraulics, it'll just start backing up. You know, so.
But I mean, you know, the only way to get the water out of there is natural drainage. Somehow, we can't pump it out of there. We can't.
Right, and I guess that's what I'm saying about, I don't feel like we have the expertise around the table or in-house. I feel like we gotta go out to a consultant who understands a deeper level.
But then we're handicapped by MoDOT, you know, by not being able to just, I mean, I can't imagine that increasing those pipes wouldn't help.
Well, it'll help, but in a rain like that, I don't know if it'll help.
Yeah.
It might help Because I was over there, Happy and I were over there a week ago Wednesday at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the last heavy rain we had, the water was, had pictures of it, it was all the way up to the parking lot. And that was only 1.5 inch rain, you know, but it was a heavy rain, and we're gonna get more and more of these rains.
Yeah.
So
You
how
know, our
many,
climate is changing to where we're having to deal with this, and
so is there just 2 pipes, one under 61 and the other road there?
Yes.
That's the only 2 enclosures,
there are 2 enclosures, yeah.
so the rest of it's just open?
Yes, there's an open ditch between 32 and 61, and then it goes underground all the way over to the
Sinkhole.
It goes underground?
Well, it goes underground, the water goes underneath
From 61 to the
from
sinkhole.
61 all the way over to the sinkhole.
Is there a mapping of this, or do we just follow what our eyesight, you know? our
Pretty much what
eye-
I did.
But
I think the mayor is our subject matter expert, actually, is what I think.
I was just curious, because I know there's been a lot of questions, like in my neighborhood, and I know you guys went out and checked out a couple things, and then I know Bob happened to talk to, one of my residents happened to talk to Bob, and there's some backup over on Audubon now, too, that they're noticing and wondering if, how much is it, you know, our responsibility versus theirs, or whatnot. I mean, my neighborhood's been, seen some significant changes. I mean, the houses have been there for years, but you have people building up a little bit more. Some new garages have gone up, new pavement, things like that, and that all can change. People have kind of excavated their yards differently, landscaped them differently, so the homeowners may have not known some of these plans and kind of affected that. And so a larger look at our overall stormwater plan across the city is probably in order. That's obviously going to be a pretty hefty paycheck on that one.
Well, see, and that's a good thing to look at,
Yeah.
but that's not going to, and we need to have that information for down the road to try to fix the problem if we
Yeah.
can. But it's just natural drainage, and a lot of this natural drainage goes through people's yards, to where ditches are filling in, and you know, people naturally, you know, get grass clippings and they throw them over to the ditch.
But
But this problem here is with shoes, that ideally, where they're at needs to, as far as what I see, is that needs to stay as a retention pond.
Yeah.
You know, and the only other option for them is for their business to move, you know, and that's, so.
Which means what? I mean,
Which means a buyout of some kind, we're gonna have to help. Because what's gonna happen is if we put the pipe in there, I'll guarantee you, we're gonna spend more money down the line here. You're gonna have businesses over on 61, and heaven forbid if ever one of those sinkholes gets, that's where we gotta be adamant on keeping those cleaned out, because if they ever, because they can't take the water now, it takes a while for that to get, to drop down. You get these big rains, that sinkhole backs up over there, folks, we'll have water at the Legion Hall. That's exactly what'll happen, it'll back up to the Legion Hall. Yeah.
Buy it out, put a park.
It'd have to be a park, but that's something we need to, those are things we need to look at, that we can, it might be cheaper for us to do that than to spend all this money with engineers and still say, well, how are we gonna get the water from here? We gotta trust a hole that goes into the ground that nobody even knows where they could go.
Yeah, but I think we'd be in agreement to say, we as a board and city have to work with shoes to figure out some solution on this.
That's exactly what, that's why they were here tonight, and we need to stay up.
Appreciate it, guys.
I dealt with it 2 years ago, the first time that I was aware of the flood, and then we just had the flood, and now it gets to where we get a heavy rain, I'm thinking, oh, hope we don't get into the building.
Yeah, that's why I lay in bed every night when it's raining.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder about it, you know?
But what has to happen is, the problem we have is this problem has been going on for a while, but it gets keep going because we have changes in the board. We need to get something, the buck's got to stop somewhere. We need to make a decision here and say which way we're going to go, and then find out what the solution can be, and bring everybody together and make something happen. Try to at least get it down to where it could happen. It might not happen with this board, but maybe the next board finishes it up. But that happens. There's a lot of things that has happened in here in the last, this board has made some decisions, and things happen and, you know, that we gotta keep moving in that direction.
You mentioned a study done on that pipe in 2005 or something like that, a report. Was that a city funded report on that?
David's got a copy of it, David.
Gotcha.
That's what
I was just asking because, I mean, for this to be going on since 2005, you know, having a report done, and obviously there's been some kicking the can down the road on this, and that's frustrating, especially on a long-term business here in the community.
Well, a business that's been established and is an asset to this community.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
every
so
business is an
I
asset.
was just asking for clarification on that, because, you know, that kind of stuff frustrates me whenever, I don't want to send this down the road, so I'd like us to.
You know, you talk about buying them out and stuff, now, then they have a chance now also to move out of the city and we lose another city business and stuff.
There's some
That's not
legalities
something-
here that we all know that there's things we can do, things we can't do. You know, and we're gonna follow the letter of the law and do things right and hopefully come up with a solution.
Well, we work together.
That's right.
And they seem open to it, so.
Are we ultimately alluding to a work session item to come at a meeting in the future where they would be invited, or?
It's the only way you're gonna be able to discuss it now.
Yeah.
That's not what,
I'm just looking for next steps. What can we map out and commit to as a?
I'd like to invite MoDOT to that meeting also and stuff, but that's part of the issue. I mean, we've got to.
And MoDOT is very aware of it. I've tried to talk to them. We have Ryan open through stuff. They know what's happening. The water's, it's coming in, it's coming this way, it's coming this way, and it's got to go this way, and then it's got to go that way. You know, like all those turns, it slows the water down. But then you got a problem. You can't put so much water's got to go through something like this where it could have happened.
But then when it gets to 61, it's still this big.
I don't know how big that, I've never measured that pipe out there, how big that pipe is. It's bigger than the one going under 32. I know that for sure. Okay,
Thanks, guys.
thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Are there any other public comments?
I have something, if I could have a minute. It pertains to the same subject. My name's David Schwartz, and I own the Subway building. And kind of the same issue. That ditch, it's fallen in. When I purchased the building, 6, 7 years ago, I was told that the city was agreed to maintain that ditch. The ditch has fallen in, and I had gotten, with Happy's predecessor, yes, and worked with Mr. Roth, and they were gonna fix it, and then I was just told recently that we're not gonna maintain it anymore. So Happy asked that I come to the meeting to kind of come up with a solution for that. It all ties together with the drainage problem and the water. Yeah, I mean, that ditch is literally fallen in. I don't know why. I'm not an engineer, but obviously we have more water going through there than what it's developed to do. I can Band-Aid it, but it's not going to help their situation. You know, I can go put more stuff in on my side of the ditch, and it's just going to push the water somewhere else. So Happy and I talked a little bit. I would be more than happy to work with someone to come up with a solution to keep my building from falling off into that ditch. Just like the house that you can see, the brick house right across from Shoes, same scenario. The ditch just keeps falling down. Eventually, that building will, if nothing gets done, and I know it's on me, it's my building, and I'll be more than happy to do it. I just don't want to take the liability for putting it on someone else or do something that's going to cause damage to someone else's property. So it all kind of ties together, you know, and buying them out might solve, you know, a problem temporarily, but again, the water's still got to go somewhere, and I guess the retention pond would slow it down, but so I just looking for thoughts from you guys.
You can imagine, we open that up and put another 3-foot pipe going into that. Well, that water's going to get to you faster.
Yeah.
And it's going to, and the water's doing the damage when it's flying through there. It's taking everything with it. The water is very destructive. Even that, that water carries a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah, I mean, to move the rocks that it's doing, to get it to make them come down, there's a lot of hydraulic pressure going through there. So
I guess my question is, I mean, will the city work with me to come up with a solution to fix the ditch? I mean, my understanding from the other landowners around there was that there was an agreement already with the city to maintain the ditch. I have not seen anything in writing, but anyone, I talked to the Udings, I talked to Al Geisner, I talked to the previous owner. When they redid Portage Street and they dumped the water in there, the gentleman's agreement was that the city would maintain the ditch. Now, again, I have nothing in writing, so the only thing I can do is stand up here and tell you what I'm told.
Who actually owns
Yeah,
the
who
property
owns
where
it?
the ditch is?
The apartments,
Who?
the apartments and the neighboring property owners.
Everybody adjacent to the ditch owns to the middle of the ditch.
So usually just like a creek, it's.
Yeah, creek bed, if you own.
So we don't know of an easement that the city has, and we've been going in there and cutting the grass and taking care of that. One of the problems is that he has erosion on his side of the ditch, which is on the west side. We're getting into private property. I don't want to improve private property. I don't mind maintaining the ditch. I just don't want to then become liable for what I'm doing on his property. So the option is we do something cooperatively, but we have to engineer it, make sure it's done properly, and that we're not going to just pour rock in there and then it washes downstream. We want to make sure we put something in that's going to maintain. But it would be a shared cost instead of just the city doing it, because I don't know if that's, just our responsibility. Again, it may have been just an agreement, but there's nothing written, there's nothing detailing what our responsibilities are.
Right.
So does that follow that ditch all the way through to the sinkhole then?
Well, I mean, that goes to 61, but that is part of that line.
Right.
So it sounds like we need to maybe do some sort of study on this whole line, and work with all interested parties to come up with a solution. I think I'm okay with, if the city helped do the study or whatever, but.
Yeah, it's an interesting way that where the apartment complex is, they kept their property ownership that runs all the way up to 32, and that's where the ditch runs. And they didn't dedicate it to the city, so I would have known at that point it's our responsibility. And then with Mr. Schwartz, it's just eroding. I mean, there's that much water coming through that it's just starting.
It's hitting on the corner there is what's happening.
So I kind of pose a question too. If I was to give it an easement, donate the property, would the city maintain it then?
And that's what the board would have to decide.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I would be more than willing to do that, because that property obviously serves of no value to me, but the value comes in the maintenance of the ditch.
We maintain it on the other side. That's what the developer did in that subdivision. I believe he apparently give the ditch to the city.
If you did.
So I think I'm going to dovetail in with what Mike and others have said. This sounds like a rather hot issue. Should be a work session, probably a committee formed to move forward on this. All parties concerned brought in. So I think that's a good way to go.
I agree with you.
Is everybody okay?
So Mark, legally, I mean, if we want to participate in something like this, I mean, what is the next step?
Well, a lot of this is not necessarily a legal question. I mean, the city has no legal liability with regard to any of the issues that I heard tonight. So we don't have to do any of the things that you're proposing to do because we haven't caused the problem. I'm a little concerned that we're cutting grass on private property without some sort of indemnification or an agreement, written agreement that we're doing that for those private property owners. I understand the benefit to the community. But that was from a legal point of view, that was the thing that actually perked my ears up, why we're maintaining the private property. But having said that, this is a complex issue that would involve all of the property owners along that segment of property, either conveying the real estate to the city, or at least providing this with an easement through the entire tract to address the entire problem. That's a big project with a lot of responsibility. We'd have to have construction easements. We'd have to have, it's a lot of legal work, a lot of moving parts. It's not just a matter of, well, let's try to get together and figure this out. You're going to have to study it. You're going to have a hydraulicist study with regard to the water flow of the entire project. before you're gonna wanna take on any of this stuff. So it's a complex issue, especially from the legal side of it, because we really have no, you might have a moral responsibility or a public policy responsibility, but you don't have a legal responsibility to solve these problems of these private property owners that are created arguably by other private development. And if that development has been in place for over 10 years, they probably don't even have a cause to action against those developers because they haven't done anything on it. That's not to say the city shouldn't take action, but just if you're talking about responsibility where we have to, I haven't heard anything tonight that would require you to take action. That makes sense.
So if we would take responsibility for that ditch, we would then be responsibility for any flooding that happens?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
If you alter the flow of water, if you alter the natural flow of water or alter the flow of water as it existed when you take the property, that's when you can become liable for the damages that are caused by your altering the natural flow of water. And the natural flow of water is established based upon when you obtain the property and start making changes. So, none of this is really back to nature. It's just what the pre-existing natural flow was before you started making your improvements.
So, but can the property owner, say there's not enough flow down through there, can the property owner widen that ditch?
You get into a lot of hypotheticals now, right? You go down that path and start getting legal advice that would be relative to the property owners and not the city.
I think you probably have to get a Corps engineer or somebody involved.
So I guess my last question is then, are we going to meet on this again, or is this something that I should take into my own hands to fix? Because I don't want to sit and wait till it's too late.
So who put that rock that's on that side of that bank?
I have to assume that the city did it whenever they redid Portage Street and changed the flow.
I was under the impression that we did that.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I'm sure it was a gentleman's agreement, but I have nothing in writing, so therefore it's no good. But I'm willing to do what it takes for me to to fix my side, but I also don't want to. I don't want to mess it up for anybody else. The liability, I guess, I could meet with my own lawyer and figure out if there would be some sort of liability on my end. But I couldn't see how there was, since the ground is eroding and it's actually ground that was there is no longer there because of the ditch. So again, I'm curious if we're going to carry this into another committee, or is it just going to be, well, we're going to just raise our hands and say it's up to the property owner.
I mean, if it's up to the board, if you want us to look at shared responsibility on the erosion that's occurring, we're not changing the flow of that creek. We're not going to amend it. We're just going to put it back to what maybe was original condition. But I don't want to just put rock in there like we've done in the past, because I don't think it's effective, because it's eroding again. I don't know how long Portage Street's been in.
I don't know. I'm going to say 10 years, probably, since when they repaved it.
So you'll be revisiting the same issue in 10 years, and have we solved the problem?
Well, again, like everyone said, as long as we're developing the city, we're going to continue to put more water in there. Right. Just like the new apartments going up, they're going to put more water in there too. I mean, it's inevitable. It was a grass, now it's going to be asphalt. Right. They will put more water in there.
So I mean, the ditch is the stormwater system. It's what is it has to stay and do what it's doing. But when you're the adjoining property owner, you can be affected negatively by it. But I think in his case, it's eroded so far. When I was brought into it, it was eroded so far in the private property. I don't want to get involved with that, because then where does that stop with other property owners? But again, we can look at what we've been maintaining, get an easement for that section, get an easement from Mr. Schwartz, and make sure that we keep that section or repair that section of that creek, and then look at this other issue from 32 to 61 and try to resolve that with easements or ownership, whichever. Such as with Point Base, where it goes to the sinkhole, that was all donated to the city. That's all city owned. But this piece of property is not. We don't own a section of it, any of it. And technically, we don't even own the highways because that's MoDOT.
Sounds like it needs to be another conversation
I
with
think so,
the
too.
committee and interested parties to figure out a solution, whether a city's going to be involved or property owners. And it sounds like it needs to happen in the near future.
Because at this point, he's the property owner that's most affected by erosion. Nobody else is.
Yeah.
So that's the issue that he has at this point.
Yeah.
Either we do something cooperatively, he does it himself, or something else occurs. The rest of it can be done as time goes on. Because we'll still have one more grass cutting that we'll perform at the end of this year.
Yeah.
And I had not anticipated stopping that. We would continue to do that to keep it open for flow. But if you're looking at doing a holistic type of view of that section of area, and his section's not going to get done quickly.
Yeah, I was just meaning the conversation needs to happen soon. Not, I mean, it's going to be a long process, it sounds like, but it sounds like these guys need answers, so probably need to get a committee formed.
Well, the short end of it, if I were you, I'd fix it.
Yeah.
I would, if I were you, I'd take it upon, because you own the property.
Yeah.
You're responsible, and I would fix it. And, because you don't want it to get worse than what it is right now, because this could
Right.
take, we could talk about this for 6 months.
I know. That's why I was.
Yeah, I'm sorry you have to deal with that, but if I were you, and I would, you don't want to lose anything, I would fix it.
Okay.
You know?
Well, that's what I wanted to
And
hear.
then,
And then if
it
we
sounds
want
like we need to have some kind of agreement with property owners that we can even get in the ditch, because really, we shouldn't probably be in there, because we don't own it.
right. And if that's, like I said, if that's me giving an easement or even donating the property, I'm
That's something
perfectly
we can
fine
talk
with that.
about there.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you for your time.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
I brought a situation up to happen a little while back.
Can I have your name, please?
Ernest Kovac. I go by Ernie. I work with these two fine gentlemen.
Ernie,
And,
you're on the work session, so we're not into the work session
Oh, I'm
yet,
sorry.
so you don't have to worry about it.
Huh?
I say you don't have to worry about it yet. We're not into the work session. So when
Oh.
we get in the work session, then we'll drag you back up to the podium.
Sit down.
Wow.
Are there any other public comments? See nobody else, so we'll move for the consent agenda. We have to answer paperwork. Take it off paperwork.
Pam, did you send those edits to everybody or just to me?
I just sent them to you for your review to show you that I did change them. And also, on the minutes for September 9th, Susie caught some, in bill number 4448, I had her as making a motion, and she was not here, so that was supposed to be Alderwoman Armbruster. And then also the bill number was at 47, and both of those should have been 48. And also, the roll call was done by me, not Sue.
Sue.
There you go.
Make a motion to approve
With amendments.
with the amendments. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. Takes us to old business. Second reading of bill number 4449. An ordinance amending section 105.030, declaration of candidacy for dates for filing.
Move approval.
Second?
A roll call, please.
Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson?
Yes.
Alderman Donovan?
Yes.
Alderman Jokers?
Yes.
Alderman Eidman?
Yes.
Alderman Rainey?
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4449 now becomes ordinance 4369.
Thank you. This will be the second reading of bill number 4450, an ordinance approving a budget amendment to the city of St. Genevieve for the fiscal year 2021 budget relating to various revenue and expenditure increases.
Move approval.
Second.
A roll call, please.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4450 now becomes ordinance 4370.
Thank you. Takes us to the second reading of bill number 4451, an ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri, approving the annual budget for fiscal year 2022 and approving an effective date.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A roll call, please.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4451 now becomes ordinance 4371.
Thank you. Takes us to the second reading of bill number 4452, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the City of St. Genevieve and the St. Genevieve Community Access Television Board, channel 990/991.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A roll call, please.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4452 now becomes ordinance 4372.
Thank you. Takes us to bill number 4453, second reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a proposal for professional services with Cochran Engineering for water main replacement, 4th Street from Robert Street to Washington Street and the Main Street Creek Crossing.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Have a roll call, please.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4453 now becomes ordinance 4373.
Thank you. Takes us to new business, the first reading of bill number 4454, an ordinance repealing and replacing section 600.020 license required classes of licenses.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Takes us, any other business? If there's no other business, I'd like to have a motion to go into closed session for legal actions or litigation.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Roll
Roll
call.
call, I'm sorry.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
Motion carries 657.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's your meeting, Nancy.
All right, so up first is Mr. Kovacs about weight limits on bridges.
All right,
Let me
Ernie
pass this
Kovac,
out.
not
Take one
related
and
to
pass
the
it on.
comedian. Everybody's old enough. Long story short, I drove trucks for years before I went back into plumbing, but I have plenty of footage of trucks that are well oversized going down 4th Street, 3rd Street. And I was just crawled under the bridge out here after work today. I got some lovely pictures I'm going to share with whoever's email I can get, and you can share them after that. But there are no ordinances on your books anywhere for weight limits, except one. And it states, I'm surprised, weight limits of trucks. No trucks over 5 tons gross vehicle weight shall be allowed in or through city parks, except school buses over by de Beauvier. That's it. Those are, and I live on 4th Street in Roberts, so, I mean, you just walk across that bridge, and I had a Stoopies truck Go across that bridge, no car on it. I mean, the whole thing, I mean, it vibrated like a 3 or 4 on a Richter scale, if you've ever been in an earthquake. Now, concrete and vibration don't go well together. You know, and I got pictures of full-size tractor trailers, 53-foot trailers, we call them curtain wagons that have, they're like a flatbed, have a curtain on them. I got one with a heavy equipment hauler that went across the 4th Street Bridge. I got a picture of it. Now, I mean, I would hate to see one of those bridges fall. I've heard one of them has before. I think maybe the one on 3rd, because it's newer. It's just guessing that because of it looks fairly new compared to the other 2 bridges. So, you know, I'm wanting to talk about possible adding to an ordinance or coming up with an ordinance for commercial vehicles in the city limits of St. John. Because, you know, who is the lawyer? Imagine that. Sorry. But, I mean, who wants to go through all the litigation while the bridge is down? You know, I know we're not the busiest town in the world, but you take one bridge out, especially this one right here, after you look at the pictures, you might think twice. This bridge right here, the school's not going to get the food. I mean, all the businesses, I mean, that's not a good thing because nothing's going to fit under the train trestle. There's no other way in except Market Street in the town. So, you know, some kind of ordinance on weight limits because we have tanker trucks that come in from Lawast and then come in down 4th Street because of GPS.
Yeah, they're lost.
Well, they're going by their GPS.
Right.
There's a trucker GPS. Half the guys don't want to pay for it. I drove trucks. I didn't either, but I didn't get stuck in your town either. So, and it's as simple as getting a hold of Google, getting a hold of, and updating our information so that they won't get routed through our town. It's that simple. You know, it's not, we don't have to go through any legality. Hey, we got weight limits here. Take us off your path. You know, they're not tourists. They're just driving a truck through town, or shouldn't be, I should say. So, you know, I mean, if you want any assistance in creating the ordinance, I got 20 years of truck driving in. I could give you plenty of insight on weight limit ordinances. And if you want to know any, I'm sure you've probably never went online and looked up bridge damage by overweight vehicles traveling over them. Many of you probably have never even done that. And you'd be surprised. Because all it takes is, you know, and we're not talking about a bridge like in Minnesota. Does anybody remember on I-35?
Yeah,
I went over that bridge a week before that, and I'm not kidding. I'm not making that up. I did go over that bridge a week before that, thinking, oh, I could have went, died or seriously injured. But, you know, we got a lot of older folks in town that, you know, a bridge goes because of a truck. Somebody's texting and driving, not paying attention. That could be a fatality. I mean, I don't want to be known for, a defective bridge or get sued because we didn't maintain our bridge or we allowed overweight vehicles to pass over them. You know, I'm not, saying we need to do any bridge repair at this point. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have somebody just take a look, every 5 years or once a year, whatever. But an ordinance would be a good thing. And as far as a solution, there's no sign when you're coming out of Lawast and would make a right turn on that industrial road that goes back to 61. There's no sign that says no overweight vehicles or vehicles over whatever tonnage through town. Nothing stopping them. They don't even have a clue. Even if their GPS says go through here, but they see a sign, they're going to make that right turn and go to 61. And then as far as coming in on 32, like I say, right next to Shoes, we have a big empty parking lot they can turn around in. And then if you get the updated information to the people that do the mapping for the GPS, I mean, it's just a matter of submitting the information to them in all seriousness, from an official source. And we could get a lot more money out of our bridges that way versus just, letting it go. And that's basically all I was going to talk about.
You know, one thing that comes to mind, though, if we start restricting these bridges, I mean, are we gonna start restricting some businesses' access to getting their supplies, or
Well, on that note, I apologize, on that note, local delivery only.
Yeah.
And then something that you've probably seen on M Road going out, vehicles over so much ton, you gotta just slow down, do a certain speed. You know, that won't affect the bridge. It's when, you know, however many thousand pounds comes down like the hill on 4th Street, hits that bridge. You know, it's not just the weight of the vehicle, the inertia and increases the weight as it hits the bridge.
I think your idea on signage and the GPS, those are, as far as weight limits, there should be weight limits on them, and I don't even know.
There is one on 3rd Street.
I don't know who inspects our bridges. I was the understanding this bridge got it's not a clean bill of health, but this bridge did have an inspection not too long ago.
MoDOT does all the bridges
MoDOT,
on their schedule, and
Yes.
send a report to the cities, let them know what they found.
But on the signage, I think is very important, because you do have lost truckers that come through town, you know. Locally, you can't stop it, you got businesses downtown.
Yeah.
You're right, you know, but
There's nothing wrong with
signage
that.
is, especially out there by La Jolla, because they'll come through town.
He
I've
will.
been several times, I've guided a truck driver, box trucks even, out of town.
I've helped them back up and turn around and send them on their way. You
Well,
know.
this bridge down here just got damaged not a year ago because of a truck coming around the corner. It was lost, and he tore telephone poles down, and he took a corner of the bridge off. It's damaged because of a truck driver.
So, I mean, like I said, well, the signage and the GPS thing will help out a lot. I think
That'll be tremendous.
And
that needs to happen.
And that's not, and it's cheap, that's a cheap fix.
I think it's cheaper fix, yeah. And then,
Yeah, cheaper fix, yeah.
because the problem you're gonna have is in, you know, weight limits is, who's to say the guy's overweight, and you're gonna have you know, your police can enforce it, but how does the policeman know how heavy the truck is unless you have scales?
Well, your bill of lading.
Yeah.
Your bill of lading is a legal document that is, you know, 100% admissible in a court of law. If he's not overweight, or, you know, like I said, slowing down and then driving over the bridge. That's not much to ask.
Right.
You know, but if a cop sees a guy just cruising and boom, boom, well, give him a ticket. I mean, he earned it, or she earned it, whatever. But just slow down and go over that bridge.
Well, slowing down at the position of a lot of our bridges anyway is a pretty good idea. I mean, when you're going down 4th Street on that bridge there, the way the stop sign is with the end of the bridge and the way the roads kind of intersect and stuff, you're looking a lot of different ways and things, so having people slow down a little bit more over that bridge is not a bad idea.
Yeah, you know. So, yeah, I mean, those are just simple fixes that can preserve, you know, people coming to our town, you know, people that live here, you know, your commerce, you know, it's good for commerce.
Right.
So.
What are you talking about? Talking about 5 miles an hour? Because it's
What?
20 now, most of them.
Well, let's say it's a 12-ton limit. Anything over 12 tons, slow down to 10 miles an hour. I mean, you don't have to go 5. I mean, there's lots of traffic on 4th Street. I live on a corner. But, I mean, you know, 10 miles an hour is reasonable, because, you know, some of them guys come off that hill, are coming down that hill.
Yeah, they're going fast.
We want to keep them off that hill. They don't have we don't need trucks coming down Maxwell Hill.
Oh, I
It's gonna
agree.
have new asphalt on it. That's gonna, now it's gonna make it better for them,
I
because they're not
agree.
gonna bounce down the hill. So
Yeah.
the idea out there is the signage out
The
there.
signage, yes. And, you know, if you
Maybe
want,
we work with, I think what we do is get a hold of Paul Arnold with the Special Road District, and he could probably help us with that.
yeah.
He's helped out in other places. That's great. Because he signs it, that's gonna be in his territory. I think that's his road, so we need to talk to Paul on that.
Okay.
And then I don't know who you talk, the Google deal, I don't know, do you know who you talk to?
I can look into it and get back to somebody. I mean, I don't mind
You
helping
can
with
get back to
that.
Happy and work with Happy, that
Yeah,
would be
that's fine.
splendid too, because we can get a trucker, instead of going straight, go right, you know?
Oh, yeah. I never went through town.
Because when they do formats,
When I work for
they usually hit that down off on those little side streets there. Then they get jacked up down there too, so.
Make sure there's a disclaimer, fine, strictly enforced, because some guys don't care.
Well, and you're never gonna stop that.
Well, no, they may not
The problem you
stop.
have with it, the policeman's not there.
Well, no, because let's say he gets past that point.
Yeah.
He's coming down the hill, cop's like, hey, I know that truck is overweight, okay? Not supposed to be here. Because nobody delivers lime in town except to the water treatment plant.
Yeah,
Nobody else gets lime. And the only thing that comes out of Lewis is lime.
right.
Okay? So all an officer has to do is look at his bill of lading. Hey, you're delivering in Texas. What are you doing here? I mean, it's just that simple. And they'll make him go slow across the bridge, run him out of town, give him a ticket. If they see him, you know, I mean.
That's the problem, is catching them.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a good deterrent.
yes.
It is a good deterrent. You don't have enough officer
The
manpower.
best part is to keep them out of town,
Yeah.
except for your local delivery.
And I love
They're
truck
gonna be
drivers.
fine.
I still load trailers for Beelman in my spare time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not anti-truck driver at all.
Right, right.
Well,
I just would like to see this town, these bridges last longer than,
I really appreciate you coming tonight and letting us know about this, because this is information for me, this educated me, and I knew we had some big rigs in town, so the couple of steps that we can work on immediately, if you were to get a hold of Happy,
yeah,
we
yeah,
would really appreciate that.
I will help any way I can, you know.
That's great. Thank you.
You know, whatever requirements they require as far as, you know, we may have to go through, latitude, longitude, you know, and things like that, which shouldn't be a big deal, because, you know, Google will actually help with that.
Okay.
You know,
Believe me, a truck driver don't want to come through town.
Right.
When he's in here, he's messed up, and he knows it. He don't want to come through town. He's not purposely
Right.
taking a shortcut.
And
He's lost.
And we bite our teeth as we watch him try to turn corners by historic buildings.
Oh my gosh, I stop them. I'm like, hey guys, no, I will help you get out of here, you know, because I drove for years. But I just think that's one thing that has not really been addressed. And even in North,
And I don't know, you see them, are they Beelman trucks that are doing this?
I haven't seen one in quite some time.
Okay.
It's usually, what's that one? Southern Illinois Motor Express. They come through town. I've never seen an MLDS in town, or a JP. I've seen box trucks for sure coming through town with 53s, curtain wagons.
Heavy trash trucks.
Well, trash, well, that's a whole nother thing. Trash trucks definitely should be slowing down.
You know, you see them now,
I mean,
you know, they keep adding axles to them so they
Yeah.
increase their weight. Now they're 3 axles.
But it doesn't, if you take the length of the truck and the length of the 4th Street Bridge, you got a truck covering the entire bridge almost, or a majority of it. So it doesn't really matter how many axles you spread the weight out to. That whole bridge is supporting that whole truck during transiting across it. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying as far as, you know, interstate commerce. Yeah, you are correct, but.
I mean, their trash trucks have done a lot of damage.
They are.
Yeah.
And
Stuff.
they can slow down. I mean, how long is the 4th Street Bridge? How long is this bridge?
Signage.
Just to slow down and go across it.
Yeah.
Signage.
I agree, the signage would help
Yeah.
a lot.
Signage would help, you know?
That's right.
Good information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Any
We'll
questions
get to work
before I
on
leave?
it. Any
No,
questions?
sir. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Randy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Come back.
All right, second up is we've adopted the budget. In the budget is $25,000 for fiscal year 2022. Sidewalk repair. We need to come up with what we want to do as our contribution, which is currently at $3.50 per linear foot. I have included the breakdown that David Bova gave me a while back. Kind of gives you an idea with the bottom sentence of what's on that whole sheet that breaks down the cost. Typical sidewalk, 42 inches wide, which is what our minimum is in the development code, is 210 square feet, will cost roughly $1,500 to $2,400, depends on who you have do it, and then also depends on what type of finish that you want on the surface. So if you look at, we can increase the linear footage amount. We could, and put a cap on it. We could just put a cap on it. However you think it would, because you got some people that might have, let's say 150 by 100 foot lot that sits on a corner that you could put sidewalks down 2 sides and be a whole lot of sidewalk just for one person. So do we need to limit the length that we will allow?
I do think that a cap would be a good idea if we're gonna increase it significantly.
That way we can spread the joy around
Right.
to more.
And see how much that actually incentivizes people.
Right.
Because if a lot of people take advantage of it, then we can talk about what we wanna do for next year, or if we wanna make changes. I mean, I would be comfortable with the $5, increasing to $5, but I do think we would need to do a cap.
Okay.
I agree with that. And then, so there's an inspection component to this, right? Like, that's gotta be our hook into it, like, we won't contribute unless we have an inspection. Is that?
Who inspects sidewalks? David?
Streets.
Streets? Okay. Yeah, so
So
we would have,
yes,
yeah, we'd
right.
have, I wasn't sure who did the inspections on, but we would have them do that.
He's gonna arm wrestle for it?
Nah.
Okay.
So if you figure 60 feet at $5 is going to be $300, so of a $1,500 cost. Is that enough incentive for people to do
I
it?
don't think it is. Not for me, it wouldn't be. I think it needs to go up. I'd like to encourage people to do some sidewalks.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of concerned, like, with that 42-inch, like, if these people are gonna put a piece of sidewalk here up Market Street, or 4th Street here, that sidewalk's not 42 inches wide, it's about that wide. You know, and you can't make, how you gonna make it, one section of it 40, there's gonna have to be some, somebody's gonna have to make a decision, David will. Well, here's the rest of it looks like, we can't,
Yeah.
you know, so we gotta have some give and take in it too.
Yeah, I know when we had kind of talked about increasing the budget for this, we had kind of mentioned a 50-50 match on things.
Do that.
I like that.
And maybe doing a 50-50 match with a cap of like $1,000
Yeah.
or something like that.
That's a good incentive, right?
Or whatever, you know, if a typical sidewalk is 60 and 1,500, you know, 50-50 up to 750, or, you know, based on an average.
Yeah.
And then that way, nobody's necessarily getting more or less because, oh, I've got a big property, so I'm gonna get more money from the city to pay half, you know, if we cap it. So, I mean, so $25,000 budgeted, if we did 750 cap, about 33 properties based on that average.
So is our intent to run this for a budget year and then gauge the success to determine whether we continue? Or, I mean, is that the feeling that we have here?
We'll probably see nothing's gonna happen probably till spring of the year now, so.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, there needs to be, there's an education component of this, like how do people know this is available to them? How do we manage that?
I think the way to educate is that we look at the worst sidewalks in town and send out a letter saying, we've noticed that you've had a little problem with your sidewalk.
Sure,
Here's,
sure.
We'd love to help
Thanks,
you
David.
with that.
Yeah.
Right.
They're easy to identify.
Well, and who knows? I mean, maybe homeowners insurance carriers could, you know, would like to see us do this as well. We're probably going to alleviate some pain that way too.
Well, and I think the other thing too is are we doing this on a first come, first served basis? Because, you know, somebody reading the newspaper might be like, hey, I was going to do a sidewalk next year anyway, and come up here and yeah, is this for new or is this for just repair?
This is just repair.
Just repair.
Yeah, new would be
Okay.
a whole new, that'd be
A whole different thing.
subdivision.
When constructed.
So repair is important to note, but
I mean, unless there's somewhere where you want a sidewalk to go in.
there's a lot of places I want a sidewalk to go in.
Around the school would be nice,
But
around the pathway to school.
But, you know,
So kids don't walk in the street.
I like the idea of sending out a letter to some of the more disrepair. I mean, we've got a literal hole in the sidewalk out here on 4th Street, just before the bridge. So
That's true.
there's certainly some that we need to try to
And they will
incentivize.
be under no obligation to take action though. It's their property, right? I mean, so we don't.
Well, there are codes there are codes written into our ordinance currently that I think gives us some authority to cite them.
Yep. It just has not been enforced.
It's not been enforced, but also with the changing of hats with Alliance, that could be a good turning point to revisit and make sure that we're, we didn't pull it out of nowhere. We've got a new company here, and we're gonna hold them to our ordinances, and so I mean the transition could help validate enforcement.
That's another good idea. She's on fire tonight.
So Happy in all of our requirements for
every night.
sidewalks, we mentioned dimensions, we go into all of the requirements.
It's up in that top section of that sheet I handed out. It
Right.
describes it. Yeah, so whoever, whatever contractor comes in, here's what you've got to, this is how you do it. Yep. So what I'm hearing is up to $750, we just cap it, of a 50% portion.
Yeah, 50% up to.
See how it works, yeah.
Sounds good.
And this is for repair or replacement of existing sidewalks.
Specifically, yes.
Yep. Okay.
I think you're missing a requirement here. There's no reinforcement of wire mesh or rebar in here.
Not a requirement in most sidewalks. Unless it's being driven on, you don't have to reinforce it.
So is that cross driveways?
Passwords.
Channel 7's phone number.
If I was a homeowner, I wouldn't do it without that.
I wouldn't do it
I'm
without
sorry,
it.
Pam.
But it's
I-
not a requirement, I guess.
It's on the TV.
Yeah. Standard practice I've been involved with, we did not put in
Only
mesh.
places in front of driveways, I think that's required.
Not even there.
Really?
Yeah.
You need to get the sidewalk right up here at the feed store. It's a sidewalk the entire lot they cross, and it's
And it's lower than the street.
lower than the street.
Right.
There's also a lot of, I was walking that the other day, there's also a lot of gravel and mulch and debris covering the road from that parking lot. So there's a lot of different enforcement. I mean, we have the similar issue down on Little Rock Road, Main Street. I don't know that there's much
That's
to
a
get
special road building down there, their parking lot.
Where all that
And
gravel
then
is.
the problem too is that sidewalk was put in and
Yeah.
it
Yeah, but.
needed to be up.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
there,
so
but
those
there
are
is
things
ordinances for homeowners and
Right.
property owners to keep the sidewalk cleaner. And so, I mean, that's just such a hazard, trying to walk it with that kind of debris on there, so.
There you go.
Okay. All right, so we have a plan, you see how it works. We may massage it, change it, whatever, but thank you for coming up with something for us to follow, so we can follow that with this next year. Okay. Festival policies. We had talked about this at the last board meeting, and was brought up by Alderwoman Armbruster about bringing this to a Board of Aldermen meeting. I didn't have a lot of stuff to put in to highlight on that. We have been working on a festival permit, but that's mostly for those that are going to have a number of merchants, and they would get a permit to cover the cost of this. We require that all vendors get like peddler's licenses and make sure that they then send in their sales tax. If we do just one, like we do for Jour de Fête, then they cover everybody that sells, and we don't have to worry about going booth to booth and, being the peddler cops.
Happy, I just want to ask a quick question with respect to festivals. Now, I'm all for them and I love them, especially as a business owner. But are we allowing people to sleep in vehicles on Main Street when they have festivals? Because I had a gentleman sleep outside my home for 2 days during the Jour de Fête in his camper. And I'm just, is that part of the gig?
Camper, that would not be the same as sleeping on the street.
No, I meant in his camper.
Yeah.
Is he allowed to sleep in his camper on the street between my home and the Welcome Center?
I don't think that, is that during the festival that he was?
No, this was in the evening after the festival was closed down. Because I'd like to understand that.
You can park a recreational vehicle on the street for 72 hours.
Even right in front of the Welcome Center?
I don't know that there's a limit on where, it's just that you can park it, like if you have visitors, obviously the visitors come to the festival, there's a 72 hours.
Okay. And is that an ordinance?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm all for it. I mean, it was a little bit much when he asked for breakfast, but that was okay. Thanks,
Fair
David.
question, you gave him breakfast?
I did.
You did?
I felt so,
Awesome.
you know.
Also included with this is the street closure request that comes to the board. So if there's anything you want to add to that, anything you want to add to the festival franchise license?
I think my biggest concern when I brought it up is, you know, I think it's awesome that all these businesses are trying to make some moves and do some fun stuff. I've attended some of them over the past few months, and you know, it's a lot of fun. It's nice to have that in the community, but it's like the fall's always a busy time, and looking at the last several meetings, the street closures that we've approved, because it gets put in the consent agenda, and we get them at different times, so we're not seeing the whole big picture here. But so September 17th, we had the Moon Over Market. I think that went well. That was closed. Market Street was closed down from 2nd to 3rd. So when you close down Market Street from 2nd to 3rd, you're taking away the traffic line from going down Market Street and up Merchant. So you're pushing traffic to the residential streets out, you know, either Gabourey or Jefferson. And we all know Jefferson is overcrowded residentially already with vehicles. But then we've got a street closure on October 9th for Merchant Street from 2nd to 3rd. So that's going to be, you know, from the old Talapic building up to the Sandbar. And
That's actually been canceled.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got an email last week.
Okay.
I got an email last week.
Okay, no, that's fine. But we had a street closure for October 9th scheduled. Then we had a street closure for October 16th, October 23rd, and then November 6th. So from October 9th to November 6th, that's 5 Saturdays in there. 4 of them, we've got street closures that would divert traffic. And again, I don't want to discourage any businesses, but at the same time, I know a lot of locals are getting discouraged, like, I'm tired, you know, especially if they're going to see this many street closures in a row downtown. I'm not going to fuss with downtown. And then, if there's a street closure, I'm not going to fuss with downtown. So I wonder how much, and then of course maybe it's up to the businesses, like, but you know, when you close Market Street down, you're potentially taking away business from Merchant Street because you're deterring people, or they're getting turned around and going. We see a lot of issues of people going the wrong direction on those one-way streets. I don't know what the solution is here, and I wish I would have come to the meeting with one. But I guess one big question is are there ways that the downtown businesses are all working together? I've heard through grapevine there's a couple different channels, and there's a lot of miscommunication or no communication. And I didn't know if that's something that maybe through tourism or committee or something that we need to try to bring together. Because the more all the businesses can work together downtown, the better the community thrives, and the better the businesses thrive. But when we've got these guys doing something over here and these guys doing something over here and asking for street closures 4 out of 5 weeks in a row, especially these are Saturdays, you've got weddings at the church of St. Genevieve, the Catholic church there, and you'll have the buses come in for that and stuff. But I don't know, but I think it's something that we need to look through and figure out if there's something that we can do, or a way to get the businesses together and be like, can you work together a little closer, or do we do a first come, first serve, and we don't allow certain street closures back to back?
I don't object to what you're saying on face value, but I get a little nervous thinking that, man, that maybe that's somewhere government doesn't belong.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would hope, and we have a business owner at the table, I would hope, we have a couple, but a downtown business owner, but I would hope that if a downtown business owner sees impact based on the volume of street closures,
Yeah.
that they feel welcome to come address that to the board.
Yeah.
And we deal with that independently on a one-by-one basis, but that's just my 2 cents. I don't know what you guys
I think the public's more involved. I mean, I'm sure if I'm a business owner, I want people downtown to, even if they're at that, maybe they'll come down to my shop.
Right.
I think it's more affected the people like Susie that live down on Second Street, getting around. It's an inconvenience, but
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I guess but then again, it's, well, I look at it too, it creates community, so it's a good thing, and I understand, but it's a catch-22 because, my goodness, you want people down there spending money. I mean, we all benefit from that.
Well, I don't want to create a solution in search of a problem.
Right,
If we don't need to,
Right,
but
I think it needs to be more of
and
a,
I think part of my questions too are, how are we communicating this? Is it, maybe, I saw on the festival form that you had put together that, how will you notify, or have you notified businesses and homeowners that would be affected? It's like maybe that's something that we need to put in the street closure, give, them the responsibility to notify those or something.
I think it'll get better too now that we have a tourism director on the ground, and hopefully, they can coordinate a little bit.
And we also have an organization downtown. We have an organization, I think it's called Downtown Renewal, and I just texted Lauren.
It's Downtown St. Jen.
Downtown St. Jen, which is supposed to be involved with this activity, so that's the first port of call I would go to.
Yeah, I just want us to talking about it, or getting, the businesses downtown talking about it, because, I mean,
again, I think it's...
we like to think that downtown is just the tourism aspect, but really it's, our local families going down there to eat at the restaurants and stuff like that. And so many of the restaurants are on the different streets, and, are our actions deterring locals from enjoying their own community?
I would invite you to...
Because the street closures also take away accessibility, close parking to the restaurants that you're going to. And maybe that's the risk the restaurant takes or the businesses take. But it's like when you have this many in a row, and there's just a lot of different caveats, and I don't know that it's our place to put those in, but maybe it's a discussion that we can start having.
I agree with you. I don't think it's our place at the board to get involved in that, but I do think it's important that we get involved with the downtown organization that's been established with business owners. So I would again recommend that you go there first.
A lot of your smaller downtowns, there is no traffic because they shut a lot of streets down, so and that's not for us because we have businesses, so.
Right.
And one good thing about our downtown, if I'm going to go to Ciro's and that street's, I can park over there behind the DeBerg building and I can walk there, walk to the Anvil, walk to the Brick. So we can, it's a deterrent, but it's you just got to watch it, because what we don't want to do, and I don't want to overreact. I'm happy that a place like Harold's Beach, they do what they do. They've been very involved in this community and helping out. So we don't want to discourage anybody. Same way with the Colonial folks. They do some events. But I understand that.
Paul, that Downtown Renewal organization used to come to our meetings often, but I haven't seen them, and I don't know if it was just particular.
I'm working
events.
that angle right now about, you're thinking just like I am. I know that Lawrence is one of the officers, and I'm texting him back and forth, and I'm saying that we need to get him
invite him into the meeting.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And I think that's the first, like I said, first step, because that's the local business people.
And they meet once a month, I believe.
They do. Yes, sir.
The Welcome Center used to maintain an email list of all the business owners in the downtown footprint, and I would really love to see that be a resource for somebody who's putting on an event, just to say, email it to Jeff, say, here is all the information, and if any other business owner has a question or concern, they can contact me, the event organizer, at this number. I don't think that's too much to ask to maintain a list, to just assist with that communication. I don't think we need to be formulating any kind of an email or anything, but we can at least assist in getting the information to the other business owners. Now, residents is a whole nother thing, because I know they're the ones that if they're not on social media, or, you know, if you're not following a certain business, you probably aren't gonna hear about it if you don't read the paper or our meeting minutes, and I think that's something that the event organizers, we really need to stress, that they need to try and get the word out as much
Even if
as
it's
they
just
can.
printing out a flyer and,
Yeah.
you know, leaving it, you know, at the door. I don't know what the solicitation rules are, but,
So which one of you young ladies would like to be the point of contact for this committee? To be invited to the next meeting? Susie? There you go.
No, I've been involved with that committee before, so I'd
Ashley?
rather not.
On behalf of the...
Honestly, I think that they should come to a meeting. If we do another work session on this, we'll invite them. I
That's
don't know
good.
that one of us needs to be directly involved at the
Sounds
moment,
good.
because they're still reorganizing, as far as I know.
Sounds good.
Or it can be you.
No, I'm too close to it. I'm too close to it. I am way too close to it. I have mixed feelings on the whole thing. I look at it as residents and business owners. I'm with you.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know that there's action to take. You know, I don't want to get too big of government on this. You know, I don't know that it's our place, but it's like maybe there's some things that we can do to encourage it. So.
We've got campers trying to camp in front of Welcome Center. Let's don't
They could at
discourage
least
that.
bring a gift or something, for God's sakes.
Happy, thanks for redoing this application. I think this makes much more sense than what we were using previously. I do appreciate that, thank you.
We've had a lot of input from board members and from staff, putting that together, and from the community, so.
Yeah, it looks good.
It does look great, thank you.
Good. All right, finally, wrapping it up. Let's talk about ARPA funding.
And wrap it up.
Yeah, good idea.
I ever mentioned Parkwood down there?
Can we stretch Parkwood up then?
Okay, just checking.
I mean, I'd say one of the number one things in water plant, the water plant, like,
thing, if I'm gonna bring up Pine Street.
number one.
That's right.
It's good to be consistent.
So we have received $445,542. It is sitting in our capital projects fund at this point.
Hammer on Ridgeway for years.
We have discussed a number of different, we've gone through a couple of work sessions trying to narrow down some items. So what I've tried to do is just track the first check that we've gotten this year. We'll have a second check of the same amount next year in August, September. And have put on here the requests that we've gotten from staff, that we've talked about ourselves in different meetings. And then I've tried to justify it with what's in the ARPA language itself, if I think it applies or doesn't apply. But you know, I've also tried to include that as another page, or a few pages that I included with that. If you want to read the whole thing, it's only 142 pages, so you're welcome to it, with a number of different additions that have occurred. And all of the city administrators are struggling, trying to keep track of this and trying to make it work for their communities. So this was a form that I stole from the city administrator in Sykeston. I said, well, that's a good idea. This is a way to break it down for you to look at. So just going through, you can tell me if you want to move forward with these items, but so the investment in water, sewer, broadband infrastructure. So for water, sewer, we've looked at the Main Street crossings. We had a not rough, but we've approved now the engineering portion of those projects. And we've got an estimate of about $114,000, and that came from Cochran as well. That would be the cost to do those two, in addition to the water line that will go in. That will be extra, but we need to get that done so we can finish paving 4th Street. So we would dedicate that amount, the $114,000, just to the creek crossings, because those will be the most expensive portion of that project.
Happy, I'm really sorry. But we have until December 31st, 2024 to use the funds, is that correct?
We have until 2023 to dedicate, 2024 to spend.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So water plant, electric switchgear, we've talked about that. That seemed like a high priority for the board. So we've included that in the ARPA funding. Stormwater engineering, I don't have a cost estimate on that. We've talked about that again tonight. The fine screen, we don't have a cost estimate on the fine screen. We don't have a cost on the belt press. That could be pushed into another year or two. Hotspot at Pier Marquette, found out today it costs about $700 to put that in for the equipment, and then it would be a monthly fee for Big River to supply the internet part. And you'd have a hotspot at the park house that somebody could pull up into the parking lot and then do their internet work, you know, be a guest. Same thing if you go down to the park. So, and I think that fits into the broadband infrastructure part of it. And then the electric charging stations, we've been talking about that. I don't see a justification in the language that allows for that.
How many of those stations do you get for 15 grand though?
One that has 2 ports to it. Two.
Okay. I mean, that's good info to have on down the road.
So Gary Nelson with the county, presiding commissioner, has been working diligently trying to figure out how to make it work, because they would like to put them into their parking lot behind the Anvil. And then he's encouraging us to put them down the Welcome Center, which would be great. But yeah, you're figuring 30,000 plus whatever the cost of the electric's going to be for the installation of it. So impact on certain populations and geographies. We talked about housing, maybe acquiring land so that we can look at affordable housing. In this way, it would either be duplexes or single-family homes, expanding that availability to those that make less than, I don't know, $20 an hour, $15 an hour. Robinwood is the type of project we'd like to see expanded. And I don't know if that price for property, that's probably somebody also giving it to us at a decent, or selling it to us at a decent price, because they see the need for it. I don't know if 50,000 would get us enough acreage. If you're looking at 10,000 an acre, that seems to be less than what some people are charging. So. But anyway, we can move forward with that in the next check as well. Revenue replacement, this is where we come up with Parkwood. I thought about taking this out, but so we calculated based on the formula that Treasury came up with, that we're with the amounts from our audit and what we should have expected over the past year, that we're probably $400,000 to $500,000 short of where we should have been. So that would give us enough for revenue replacement. That goes in the general fund. General fund specifically is allowed to get roads, and it says in the language, including roads. This is where they put it in there. What you can't do is do a water line and replace the whole road. That has been talked about. It's like, well, if we do a water line, we can just repave the whole street. No. That has been flagged by Treasury to say that is not what we mean. You can patch that hole, but you can't do the whole street. So next page, IT equipment for City Hall Police Department. We're getting ready to finish up the police department probably here in 3 or 4 weeks. We have a number of items that we really do need. And again, I think this falls under, I didn't put a justification. It's actually the second on the website. It's the same justification. Again, it would come out of our general fund. We would pay for the upgrades that are needed for the IT system. It would include mostly the police department, and eventually it includes City Hall. We would just be utilizing the server room that's now in the new part of City Hall. But I think for the equipment and installation, so total across the city is $114,000. $80,000 is what we would need to spend, because this is where we have the most need. Eventually, we'll get to the street department, water department, sewer plant. We would get out there, fire department. The website, again, because of the justification for that is that we need to communicate with people, and that's how we communicate. We don't have an accessible website, and if we have one, then we have that opportunity to do that. That we can get the word out, that we can create get whatever modules we need to make it more accessible. So I think there's a justification for that. I don't want to do it this year. I want to do it next year or the year after. We put it off into another budget year, but I think we can. I think it is allowed.
But that would just be the stgenevieve.org.
Mm-hmm. So the website for Visit St. Gen, we've got money budgeted from tax commission on that. And then we also have state money that we asked for, and we think we have that, and then we'll ask the others. So I'm waiting for Jeff to kind of come up with some ideas on it. He's got some really good ideas to make that work, which would be a totally different type of website than what we need for City Hall. We need something that is informational. So one of the other questions, we look at premium pay, incentive for recruiting new firefighters. I don't see in the language how we can utilize the money for something along those lines. Because of they're not, it should be COVID related. If you were paying people the premium pay, it was because they were doing something that was COVID related, working extra hours, working with the public, working with the health department. It didn't really, and it does say emergency personnel, but it doesn't include really just trying to come up with an incentive. It has to be based on.
It's not a paid position necessarily. Yeah, I understand.
For parks, we've talked about like a pump track at the skate park. Newest language now from Treasury is parks are important. People are going to parks. People are utilizing parks. It makes people healthy. So we don't have a cost on that, but that is something that probably is now allowed because it is for the healthy outcomes, and that's what we're shooting for. And then bathroom improvements at Pier Marquette Park. Again, it comes down to health and safety. Again, improvements that people are using the parks more, so you need facilities for them to be able to use. And so that also, I think, now is justified. We just have to get a price on if we're going to do something like that. And then that offsets the cost of having to raise money for the rest of the improvements to the master plan that we have with
yeah. And if we were to do restrooms, that would allow us to have larger events and that are more like people be more inclined to come out to our events. That's one of the biggest gripes.
So that again would not be in this year's group, it would be in next year's group. So this year's group is at $454,000. It is more than what we got in the way of finances. Some of this may be less, some may be more, you don't know. But if you want us to move forward with that, so some of it may have to come out of general fund or the water fund. There may be other sources of income to make up for the $10,000 that we don't have included here. So I think it's I think we have a potential plan if the board is interested in it.
I just have one comment, Steve. I would really love to see a number for the fine screen for maybe for the next round of monies, if you can get a bit on that or an estimate, just so we have an idea.
Yeah, roughly around 150,000 for that.
Really? Okay.
The bell press would be significantly more, around 400.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we may just pull the bell press off and leave the fine screen, but that would come, again, we can do that in 22, 23.
Yeah, because I really feel like that is a priority for that department.
And I'm not, I left it on there because I'm not discounting it, it's just we didn't have a...
Sure.
We'll try to get a better, tighter quote, but also, and be more specific to what we need. But we have another round coming, so we plan out for that. So if you're good with this, what you'll eventually see is engineering requests and that, and we'll have budget amendments eventually. We may not do budget amendments each time we approve one of these, but you'll probably see it at the 6-month mark and then at the end of the year. So we're not, so we can keep track of what we're doing. I appreciate everybody's input.
I'd say Parkwood can wait till the end.
Wait a minute now. Well, let's don't drag this meeting out for another hour. We won't.
It needs to.
I appreciate everybody taking time to look at that, give us ideas, and discuss it as much as we have. But this will be good for the community.
Any other questions? Nope. Happy to adjourn the meeting?
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned.